Oh, welcome back, fans and friends. As promised, I have the other Micro Galaxy Squadron here, number 61. And this is Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. So this one, I don't think we don't see this in the movies, so the prequels, 1, 2, and 3, because in the second one, this is obviously his Clone Wars attire. He never wears this in the movies either. And obviously R2 is wearing what he always wears. And in the background, actually, we see Obi-Wan Starfighter there, which is interesting because this is not Obi-Wan's. And I believe it's Slave One, Vulture Droid firing item. Yeah, not a Slave One, a Vulture Droid. Although in this episode 2, it is in fact Jango Fett in his craft, which is colloquially also known as the Slave One or the Bounty Hunter ship. However, this is neither Obi-Wan and that is not Jango Fett. So, anyway, so there we see the slot for R2 and obviously the cockpit for Anakin. Obviously, the fighters field life support, unlike its descendants. And there you see the whole thing assembled. And I ripped off the price tag so you wouldn't know how much I paid for it. And you can obviously, it has the top and the bottom part there that there I've explained before is the only way this thing moves through hyperspace. The Republic, towards the end of it, did not have large capital ships that went everywhere, so these things would have had to fly to and from the temple. They were on special order from, I believe it's Kuwait Drive Yards, but maybe Kuwait Systems Engineering. Anyway, you can just see there, the hyperdrive ring itself is movable. R2 obviously, I don't know if you can eject them, we're going to find out, but you see there, I think there is a button. I will try to keep a track where he flies off to because the last thing I want to do is lose him. Anyway, you see now it's not light armor class anymore, it's just Starfighter class because things change. Anyway, so this has a long list of craft I actually do want to get. This one's probably going to be extremely hard to find. And this combined with the Eta 2 and indirectly the ARC 170 are replaced by the TIE Fighter from last video. Why is that? Because the TIE Fighter is half as complicated, 1/3 the price, and none of them had a hyperdrive anyway. And the Empire learned the wrong lesson from the Battle of Coruscant, which was light fighters can't do everything. They can just do some things. And the tactics were to use the ARC 170s to draw away the fighters and then have the Eta 2 slip in. But nobody was listening. Anyway, there's the cockpit. You will see there Anakin with the lightsaber on the left side. We will see if he actually does have it. Otherwise, that would be really nice. You saw how plain the Imperial pilot was. Anyway, Disney, Star Wars Films, and StarWars.com and Lucasfilm Limited, Micro Galaxy Squadron, chase vehicles. So there you go. So they will be extremely hard to find. Cheaply, anyway. He's one of my favorite characters. There's nothing like destroying your own spaceship and firing all the escape pods when you get back onto it, just to spite everybody you already hate for reasons they will never understand. Anyway, obviously, have many small parts, so you shouldn't be putting this near children. And then it's all the same here, yeah. Basically, everything else. And like I said, Jazwares, number 61. It's better than Mattel. Much bigger, that's for sure. But double the price, so you do see. Anyway, there's the Arabesh for the fighter itself. And obviously these blueprints, people can collect them. It's kind of like a trading card for those who care for such things. And you can just see how tiny this thing is. Basically the size of a Mazda. Almost the size of a Miata. And the unusual feature here, though, is you can see the pilot is so far back. This will be eventually, for those of you who are more familiar with Star Wars, obviously, the Star Destroyers will bear a striking resemblance to this kind of thing. Eyes will be up there, the rest of the body will be there, and it presents a very narrow profile, head-on, which I believe is its main purpose, and not firepower. It does have 4 light laser cannons, and the Jedi, you know, they can sort of see things in the future, so they have at least a battle advantage in terms of why the craft. They're supposed to be peacekeepers, not soldiers, so thus this craft was not made with fighting entire wars in mind. I will just go over the package very briefly. That's the back of it. You see the Vulture droids. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 against Obi-Wan in an asteroid field with R4P17 right there in the middle. And so that's how it's actually not folding at all. You can just see the two ring parts of it are on the top and the bottom. They will probably fold into the central pod. You can just see there the underside of the fighter. I will be covering all that, don't you worry. And the hyperdrive ring engines and exhaust. For those of you watching Ahsoka, apparently Morgan Elsbeth just built a giant version of this to fit a whole Star Destroyer. And the purpose for that is she probably has no idea where he is, and she has to move that giant thing without knowing how many resources it has left to do it itself. Anyway, so that's why you can't really trust whales, right? Anyway, there's 3 LA-AT gunships. Another nice, if I see it out, probably will buy it, although they will be almost 2.5 times the price. Anyway, green is for good guys, red is for bad guys, and you see these are what they are actually. So I guess, oh, there's 4 of them. The Obi-Wan was providing 1-man Starfighter escort for all of them. So we will start with the fighter itself. Then we will move on to the hyperdrive pod. And here you see R2-D2, the most famous astromech droid of Star Wars, and Anakin Skywalker. The man who started it all. Well, in theory, it's actually, what's his name, Palpatine. Not Anakin is just a very central character in 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. He builds the Empire and then he spends the rest of his life destroying it. Well, there we have it. His lightsaber is right there on the left side. You see decent detail. He is wearing his Clone Wars type armor. His hair is kind of weird. And it appears that it's not evenly painted. You can just see there some splotches. Everything else looks to be okay. I do believe he does the zombie pose like all the others. It's not going to ever get more complicated than this. You see there, hands out. And as for his lifelong companion R2-D2, unfortunately his legs don't move at all. And there you see the pinhole for obviously the part of the Starfighter that he goes into. This is his back, I believe, and this is his front. So they have color-coded it in case people don't know which direction he faces. Although, to be fair, his head spins, so he technically cannot go into battle backwards. So that's good. And as we all know, those things, the R2 units were robots. They were specifically used for engineering, repair, and other tasks. And one of the most important things they did was store hyperdrive components because, coordinates, not components, coordinates. Components will be stored in this hatch here for the fighter repair, I guess. And so that's the slot where he fits. I will get into it eventually. So, starting with the front. Nice and triangular, like I said before. Narrow profile. So it makes sense in a fighter. It doesn't really make sense in a large capital ship, especially if you're facing forward, because your weapons will literally impede each other, or just the outside turrets, barrels of the turrets will be able to fire forward, and it doesn't make sense. Even doing a little bit like this, you get your maximum firepower. Like this, your maximum firepower, where obviously your profile changes. Anyway, you can just see there the bubble canopy, reminiscent to Shin's, and also certain World War II early fighters with the Razorbacks. P-47 and P-51 were famous examples. They went from this to the bubble canopy. This is a half bubble canopy. Obviously, the back is not fully bubble. We have there 1, 2, 3, 4 laser cannons. It seems to be mostly flush design. Interesting. That is, we talked about the Empire symbol. This is the Republic symbol, for those of you who were wondering. I briefly was confused, but then you remember this has 2 extra spokes. Empire one does not. On to the left side, you can just see there, again, triangle, half triangle anyway. Profile, you can just see there the exhaust from the engines. Cockpit opens forward. And once again, the Republic symbol at the back of it. So the storage thing doesn't open whatsoever. And just briefly, we'll cover the cockpit. You can see the controls, the bars, the steering yoke, all that fun stuff at the front. The cockpit itself is a sort of a maroon, orange, red, pink, translucent cover. It is very stiff, which is good because you don't want it, and it clicks in place. Onto the back. we have there to the Two Republic, the fin on the back. I believe this is for aerials and stuff like that, like radio communications or whatever they use in the hyperwave transceiver, blah, blah, blah. The engines there, there's two exhausts. This has as much a twin engine configuration as the later TIE Fighter line will have. You can just see there, we rarely see this part of it, which is interesting to say the least. The basin, I guess I'll call it. On to the right side, exactly the same as the left side, except you can see here the Republic symbol. That's the only major difference. And then finally onto the underside, which I believe it does have two here landing gears. And we do see them when Obi-Wan lands on Geonosis. They are out right before he's captured, but through overwhelming force. And as you can see, I am somewhat with trim nails having a certain amount of trouble taking out that front one. So the front one is out, and you can just see there it is creaking to make it level, and thus you can actually put the fighter down. Very small, and you can just see there. Probably is not very difficult to climb into. However, with all those, it must have stairs somewhere, because with all those smooth surfaces, it cannot be easy. Anyway, I will now load them all up into there. Okay, so just making sure, pushing him in so he doesn't rattle around. He does, unfortunately, so there's a little bit of a, you can just see there. Once you close it though, he will at least not fall out. And then you grab obviously your little astromech here, in this case R2. And you line up the pin and then push him in. And here is, we learned this with Kylo Ren and the TIE Fighter. You just push it and he literally pops out. In the edit too, you watched in the Revenge of the Sith, he actually gets fired out of his. So it is entirely possible that that is a thing. So there you have it. The Aethersprite Wind Light Interceptor in its landing configuration with its pilot and, less for a better word, co-pilot. Onto the hyperdrive ring, which is nestled in there quite solidly. Made up of 3 parts that I do not wish to break. And so here we will see if it's keyed for top and bottom, thus making this really easy. And these things will just be in the universe floating around in space. When they are needed, they are simply picked up. And I do believe all the fighters can use everybody else's, so technically, if Mace Windu's in a rush, I mean, you could pair the green with the purple with the yellow. But they seem to me they have enough pride to say, you know what, I'll just use my own. So there's half of it installed, and they are keyed. You can just see there. Are these identical? They are not. So you can literally not mess them up. So there is a specific way they go on. And so there it is. You squeeze them together. They will probably be very difficult to unsqueeze to separate them, and it's not an issue. I will probably display like this, but once again there's no stand, so it has to be extremely balanced, and as you can see there. So starting with the front, you see the 2 inlets reminiscent of the X-Wing later on. There is the keys for the parts that will lock into the bottom of that fighter in the background. We do see Obi-Wan use it when he leaves Coruscant to go see what's happening on Geonosis. Underneath, there's the parts of the groove. You can just see there's a gap, and I believe that's the tab you push to dislocate them. And then we have here the exhausts on either side. Nice and detailed. So like I said, if you buy sassy tins, it does not come with this, so that's kind of disappointment. But they happen to have this one on the shelf too, and I decided, you know what, if I'm only going to get one, I'm going to get the, oh, if I see Obi-Wan's, I'll grab that for sure. Maybe Plo Koon's as well. I'll decide when I see it, if I see it. So, the hard part, anybody who's done Lego, you will excel at this. It literally is shapes. You are matching the shapes. And obviously that was not my forte. And it is simply push and press, as you can see I did there. And I remember I thought it was a little bit more in, but I guess not. This is suitable as well. You still get most of your vision. So if you're looking out, you will literally just have like this in front of you. And you'll be able to look all the way left, all the way right. I apologize, I don't know my left and right. That's the left. That's your right. And then just staring down the middle, this will be your sight. So it's actually reasonably good in terms of sight. Although you would not fly into combat with this thing because obviously it's a huge hindrance. It's a bigger target and it probably explodes. It's full of hyperdrive fuel. For any of you who have watched Solo, I guess these things are full of that. You will have these rings. Any of you, if you've watched Ahsoka, you see it has the bottom one here and then the top command pod. And you can see it's quite sturdy. How easy is it to release? Just simply pull back and push forward. You hear the click, it's in. It's pretty sturdy. Very little play, which is okay. That's not bad, right? Unfortunately, because it does not have any base whatsoever, it does not sit flat. So if that's a problem for you, well, you gotta deal with it. Anyway, fans and friends, giving you the front profile. One of my favorite parts of the prequels was the predecessors to everything we knew and loved in the original trilogy. And except for R2, obviously, he's his own predecessor. We have there the Aethersprite Aethersprite Light Interceptor from Kuwait. I believe it is Kuwait Drive Yards. Kuwait Systems Engineering built the Fire Sprite, not this thing. Anyway, and then later on they built the Eta 2. Was supposed to be compatible with these rings. We will find out. There was also a different ring, slightly. It was released with the old titanium series. It has 2 more engines on this side, 2 more engines on this side. I don't believe it's faster. I just believe it's longer range, but I am not the expert. I've never used one. So, thank you for watching this video on the Jazwares Light Interceptor. This is Anakin's, specifically his Jedi Starfighter, as they were made available for the temple. Thanks for watching. It's Thomas from Toronto, and till the next one.